Fareed Zakaria GPS, CNN Sunday morning 10 Eastern and Pacific.
I now want to bring you the two men who seem the most likely frontrunners for the presidency of Egypt, Amr Moussa and Mohammed El Baradei. Officially, there is no race, no clock, and therefore no official contenders for the presidency. But polls, party organizations, the press, and street wisdom point to these two figures as the heavyweights so far. It remains unclear if a third candidate, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, will run. If he did, that might change the calculus. Both Amr Moussa and Mohammed El Baradei are towering figures in modern Egypt. Moussa, having served as Hosni Mubarak's foreign minister for 10 years, was then Secretary General of the Arab League, in fact still is for another month or so. Mohammed El Baradei is best known for his work as head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, for which he received the Nobel Peace Prize. In that role, he famously confronted the Bush administration, pointing out that he had no evidence that Saddam Hussein was developing a nuclear weapons program. Turned out he was right. The two of them, Amr Moussa and Mohammed El Baradei, are friends for 40 years and former colleagues. In fact, they once shared an office at the Egyptian Foreign Ministry as young diplomats. But they are different people with different perspectives. Let's start with Mohammed El Baradei, who has been passionate about the need for a real transition to real democracy in Egypt.
Mohammed El Baradei, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you very much for having me, Fareed, here in Cairo.
Tell me, the world's attention has moved somewhat away from Egypt after the glory days of the revolution. What do things look like now?
It's normal that the world moves on. There are always something new. But things are not the best right now, Fareed. I mean, the security situation, law and order is not in the best shape. People do not feel secure. They are buying guns and to protect themselves. So there is this sense of angst, which obviously has great impact on the economy. That the economy is bust. That zero investment, inflation, budget deficit, lack of tourism, and then add to that there is no really a clear roadmap. Where are we heading? What kind of state or regime we're going to have? Is it presidential system? Is it parliamentary system? When are we going to have a new constitution? When is a parliamentary election? When is a presidential election? So it's a total opaque situation coupled with economic deterioration.
So where does this leave Egypt in the sense that you have announced that you will run for the presidency? Can you start a campaign?
I can't even start a campaign. There is no law which say how you run a campaign, how you raise funds, for example. There is no deadline. When are you officially can become a candidate? I think they talk about 3 weeks, through which you can run for president, which is a bit ridiculous. I do not know whether the election is going this year or sometime next year. And as I mentioned, unless you know under a new constitution what kind of country you are going to run, I can't apply for a job which I don't have the job description.
Do you worry that if elections were held quickly, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the most organized political movement in Egypt, would gain perhaps even an unrepresentative share, and then would try to write a constitution that had some abridgments on these personal freedoms because it had a particularly strict interpretation of Islamic law?
I do worry a lot. And you see, to have election as envisaged in 3 months' time, when the new parties, the parties of the youth who just triggered the revolution, are just about in the making right now, to give them 3 months to compete against the Muslim Brotherhood, who have been in place for 80 years, will probably lead to a fair and free election, but not representative election. And having an election in 3 months would lead to a parliament that is not representative of the different, hues of the Egyptian society, and that will not really be the kind of Egypt people trigger the revolution to achieve.
Should the United States be playing a more active role in helping Egypt at this point, or would that be interference?
Well, it depends on what you talk about. I mean, Egypt needs economic assistance. I mean, need advice on how to, again, economically, we have 5 million people who are unemployed. There will be 7.5, I think, in 6 months. People are afraid that we will have another revolution, which is revolt of the poor. I mean, that beautiful revolution was revolt for human dignity, freedom, and others. So we need a quick infusion of money. The U.S. also and others can show their models of how you build up a full-fledged democracy. That as in everywhere, you build a national consensus. You try to ensure that there is a majority rule, but also a clear protection of the minority rules. We have now, as you know, quite a lot of violence between Christians and Muslims, which something should not happen, but it's a result of many factors, 60 years of repression and total chaos. People now, after the revolution, think revolution means chaos. Right now, socially, we are disintegrating, economically we are not in the best shape, and politically it's like a black hole. We do not know where we are heading.
Are you hopeful still that Egypt's revolution will be successful and that it will be a model for the Arab world?
Well, philosophically, if you look, to other revolutions, there is always bumps in the road. I believe, and I would like to believe, that we will go in the right direction. But we'll have to do a lot of work to make sure that we learn from other revolutions, we learn from our own mistake. But definitely, no matter what's going to happen, it will be better than what we had before. We are still poor, but we are free today.
Mohammed Al-Baradei, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.